PGs, and welcome to another episode of the Preacher Girl podcast and video blog. It's so good to be with you today, and I'm so excited about today's episode because we're going to talk about a topic that affects all of us: marriage. Yep, I said marriage. It's either you're married, you were married, you're gonna be married, you never want to be married, you love being married, your parents were married, maybe they weren't married. Marriage affects all of us. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody knows where they are in their marriage journey. Some of you are wishing you were married. Some of you are wishing you were not. Well, today I want to give you some of the best resources that I have as a pastor. I've counseled or talked with so many couples, seen some marriages fail, some marriages succeed, and I'll give you what I think are my best pieces of advice to make your marriage work. I've been married for 25 years. Yes, it's a long time. And this year was our 25th wedding anniversary. But I just want to say how happy and how grateful and how thankful to Abba I am to be in a marriage that I love. I love being married. And I want to talk to you today, preacher girls, in whichever state of marriage you are. I know so many of you are young and you're not married yet. Some of you are desperate looking for that gentleman. Well, if that's you, you want to stay tuned because the following information is going to prepare you for a long and healthy and Christ-loving marriage, or it's going to help you repair the one that you're currently in, because every marriage goes through its ups and its downs and has its pitfalls and has its journeys and has its forgiveness and has its mistakes and has its recoveries. We're going to talk about all of those things. So if you are interested and this is your first time, stick around. You're going to love this. So here's my first disclaimer. Before you think that in 30 minutes or less I can fix your troubled marriage, you'd be very, very mistaken. Here's a troubling statistic. In the United States, 4 out of every 5 couples that receive marriage counseling will actually end in a divorce. Right? Now, that's really troubling, especially when you consider that only 3 out of 5 couples that don't have marriage counseling end in divorce. So apparently, among psychologists, it seems like marriage counseling actually does worse than does better. I like to say I think that it's probably because we don't use the most important ingredient of all, which is God, the Holy Spirit, which is Jesus. Our God is the one that we covenant with when we make a marriage vow. We don't just covenant with another human being, but we make promises to God Himself. And therefore, it is in His best interest and in ours to make sure that the covenant among 3, which is God, your spouse, and you, lasts forever. So that means God, when He is involved in your marriage, He is also at work to make sure that it's working. However, God won't do that for you. You must also take a proactive step, take all the steps actually to make sure that you're doing your part as the spouse to make sure that your marriage works. Today, I'm not going to give you marriage advice to fix your broken marriage. I think if you need that, you need to see your own pastor. You need to seek help, maybe from your counselor, your Christian marriage counselor, maybe a couple in your faith that you have trusted, that have longevity in their marriage, somebody that you can talk to, your parents if they're still married. You certainly don't need to be taking that from any average YouTuber or somebody that you don't know. It's so important that you're very careful who you take your marriage advice from, because sometimes people's bitterness can spill over into the things that they tell you, or their problems can spill over. I've seen that in my own life. If people come to ask me a question, or I'm counseling a couple, or trying to give them advice, the state of my relationship at that time can color what I'm saying. And that's just because we're human. So what I'm going to do today is not give you quick repair, because sometimes when marriages are very broken, band-aids don't fix it. When there are deeper wounds and deeper issues, you can't solve it with a 5-minute piece of advice. What I'm going to do today is to give you some time-tested, the best tools that I have found over 25 years of counseling couples or of talking to couples, things that I've used myself to make sure that you fail-proof your marriage as much as possible. I'm going to share some resources with you, some websites that you can go to, some evaluations that you can take, the 2 best marriage books I've ever read to help you, 1, gain some insight onto what might be causing some trouble, 2, give you insight in how to choose a husband that you're going to stay with for the rest of your life, and 3, how to put the spark back in your marriage or repair what's already broken. Can God fix broken marriages? Absolutely. Can He mend what the devil broke or maybe you broke? Yes, He can. He is the repairer of the breach. He is the one who can build bridges where you've just burned bridges. So we're going to dive right into let's start with the 2 best books I've ever read on marriage. So the first book we've already talked about. In fact, I did a podcast, which we'll link right here, to The 5 Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. We already talked about it, and those of you who know me, who've been with me for any length of time, who've done marriage seminars with us, already know them, but I'll reiterate them for you in case you forgot. The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman basically states that every human being, no matter who you are, male, female, old, young, in whichever state of marriage, you speak a certain love language predominantly. You speak one and you understand one, right? So let's do a quick test right now. I'll tell you the 5 love languages and you tell me which one you think. Write it in the comments below as we chat, which one you think is your dominant speaking language. In other words, this is how I show love. Okay? Ready? Also, keep your ear open for the ones that you receive or the one that you understand. The reason why this is important, by the way, is if I speak French and you speak Greek and you're speaking to me, you could say the sweetest things, but unless I understand Greek, it is irrelevant, right? So in order for your spouse, in order for your loved one to understand the love gestures or the love affirmations that you're giving them, they must be able to understand the language that you're speaking. The first one is words of affirmation. This is according to Dr. Gary Chapman. The first love language is words of affirmation. You know, that is when you are used to telling people things that will make them feel better. You know, honey, I just love how you did that. You're amazing when you fill in the blanks. And that is what you do to honor, respect, and build up somebody's self-esteem or make somebody feel good about themselves. Some of us speak that very well. Oh, you're so beautiful today. Right? Maybe you're the spouse that does that. Woo! Babe, you so hot. You know, whatever it is. If that comes naturally to you, then that's probably the language that you speak, okay? The second one, physical touch, right? Some of you can't walk into a room without, however you touch. Hug, squeeze, kiss, something, right? You're very touchy-feely. And that is your love language. You can't see your child without hugging them. You know, your husband passes by, you gotta, whatever it is you guys do. That's physical touch. Babe, run your hands through his hair, beard action, whatever. And then there's physical gifts. Some of you express love by gifts, by tangible gifts. You go to the store, you buy him something, a shirt, or if you're a guy watching this podcast right now, you buy her a candy bar, you buy her gummy bears if that's her thing. I don't know. Different people have different love languages. If you do that automatically, if you can't go somewhere without thinking about the person you love and getting something for them, even picking a flower on the side of the road, then giving gifts is your love language. The next one, quality time. If you're the kind of person, if I love you, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to carve out 2 hours of our time. We're going to sit together. We're going to talk. We're going to have a meal. We're going to light some candles. We're going to really spend time, TV off, phones off, kids to bed, and just you and me. Right? You're the kind who will for a birthday, get a sitter for the children and have dinner in your house alone. We're not going to go out in public. We don't want to have a party. We just want to stay together, you and me, and that's quality time. Quality time is no distractions, just you and your spouse, and that's how you show love. And the last one, acts of service. You're the person who you say, I won't tell you I love you, but I'm going to show you that I love you. I'm going to wash your car while you're still in bed. I'm going to make you breakfast in bed and bring it down for you. I'm going to vacuum. By the time, you come home, your clothes are ironed or your meal is set out and you don't have to do a thing, babe. That's acts of service, right? Now, You might not know which of these you speak fluently, but I bet you know which one you understand. I bet it's easier for you to tell which one appeals to you. The best way to figure out which language you speak or which language you understand is to rate them 0 to 5 and rank them. The one that you give the most, the highest number to, obviously, is the one you think you speak or understand the best. You can also go to the 5lovelanguages.com, which is Dr. Gary Chapman's website, and there you can take a free assessment to find out which is your predominant love language. Now, here's the point. I didn't give you that so you can figure yourself out. The point of that whole thing is to figure your spouse out. Because your job and your privilege as a spouse is to find out what it is that your spouse understands. Because if he doesn't speak acts of service and you kill yourself from morning till night, cooking 3 meals a day, ironing all the clothes, washing the car, vacuuming the house, renovating, and it does not express love to him, all you've done is exhaust yourself. If all it would take for him to feel loved is for when he walks in the door for you to throw your arms around him and show your affection physically to him, and he would feel most loved, then that really would be the best thing you can do. Everything else would be secondary. So that's why it behooves you and it behooves me to know what our spouse's major love language is so we can speak it fluently and they feel loved. Because once your spouse feels love, then they can express love back to you. And that's why it's so important. If you can get your spouse or your significant other at this time, while you guys are dating, because you're going to get married, if you can get your spouse to do this assessment with you, especially online, because the questions are more detailed, then you'll have a better idea about the language you can speak in order to better know your spouse and fulfill their love language desire. It's kind of like everybody's got a bucket. And when you love your spouse the way they understand, you make a deposit into that bucket. So their love bucket gets a little full. And every deposit you make into their love bucket, it fills up and fills up. But every time they do something that hurts, or every time you do something that hurts them or offends them or betrays them, it spills out a little bit. You might be doing a lot of things, but unless it's making a deposit into the love bucket, into the bucket that they understand, they can still feel so empty. And they can still feel so unfulfilled in a relationship, which is why if you could get your spouse to do the same assessment with you, it would do both of you a world of good. So before I introduce the second book and the free assessments that we have for you, let me introduce you to somebody else.
Hello, everyone.
Come forward a little bit so you get out of the blur zone. Yeah, he just walked in. He's working on a bathroom.
Yes.
How's it going?
Terrible.
Oh gosh. Why?
It's just a mess.
Okay, but that's all right. He's very, 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 very handy guy. And by the time he's done with that bathroom, it's gonna be magnificent. I just want him to say hello to you before I jump right back into the podcast.
Hello, PGs. I hope above everything else you enjoy this.
Me too.
Bye-bye. I'm going to go back down.
You should do the stare thing, like the stare thing. All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. All right, the second book I wanted to introduce you to is a book called His Needs, Her Needs, and it's by Willard Harley. And I know that some of you have heard from it, and so I can make 2 suggestions to you. Go get it on Audible, go download it on Kindle, or you can buy it on Amazon. That's a third suggestion. You can buy it used. You can get it for $2 or $3. But it's such a good read. But just in case you don't have time to do that, I'll take a few minutes and give you the gist of what that book is all about. It's so informative. I think it's one of the strongest and most self-searching books that you could read as a wife, as a husband, or as a wife or husband to be. So let me tell you, basically, the premise of his book is that every human being has 10 major needs, and we have many needs, but there are 10 major and basic needs for every human being. So there is an assessment where you get to pick which of the needs are most important to you. I do this with most, if not all, of the couples that we have marriage counseling with, and you get to rank those needs in order of the importance to you as a person. Now, generally, what we've seen over decades is that the women will have basically the same five, and the men will have the same another five in a different order. There are always exceptions to the case, of course, and people are always unique and individual, but across the board, women tend to lean towards a certain way and men tend to lead towards another need. So these are the 10 needs, okay? The first one is the need for affection. Second, the need for sexual fulfillment. Third, the need for intimate conversation. Fourth, the need for recreational companionship. Then the need for honesty and openness. Number 6, the physical attractiveness of your spouse. Number 7, financial support. Number 8, domestic support. Number 9, family commitment. And number 10, admiration. So it goes kind of hand in hand with the 5 love languages, but these are the basic needs of men and women. Now, the men tend to have a certain set, like I said, and the women need to have a certain set. So this is what I've found. This is what statistics show. This is what Harley has said across the board over his many decades of counseling he's seen. That the 5 most common female needs, the common thread or theme in the female needs is for a sense of security. That's the most important thing they want. So when we give them these 10 needs, females will link things like affection as very high up there. Females want to be told that they are loved, that they are cared for, that they are special, that they are beloved, that you are. That's why we say things, some girls say things like, tell me, just say these words to me. It's not because you like words. It's because affection and feeling love is just a very important need to you. And if you are married to a spouse that is probably caring for your financial needs and your domestic needs, but not meeting that need for affection, then you're gonna feel unloved. Similarly, it goes the other way. If your spouse needs that affection, but you don't say those things, you don't buy the small gifts or give the flower or for no reason, bring you something that shows you that you are loved, then that spouse is also gonna feel that way. So I'll read his definition. It is the non-sexual expression of care through words, cards, gifts, hugs, kisses, courtesies, and just creating an environment that continually or repeatedly shows care. There are very few girls in the world, women, especially women of God, I've found, who will say this is not important to them. It's so important to them. I know in secular circles, financials rank higher than this. Some girls are like, you don't even have to say nothing, just give me the money. But women of God really don't act like that for the most part. So for men across the board, generally, when you consider trends, like I said, not everybody's the same. There are always differences. There are always people who prefer other things. Men tend to go into the next need. It ranks higher, which is sexual fulfillment. So I'll tell you what that is. I'll tell you the definition. It is the sexual experience that is predictably enjoyable and frequent. That's his definition. I didn't make it up. He made it up. And so when a man feels desired like that and is satisfied by his spouse in that way, enjoyable is important and frequent also important, then it ranks higher for a male usually than it does for a female in a marriage. It is, like I said, not always, and you can or can't comment to this. This is up to you. But for the most part, it's more important a need in the men than it is in the women. The problem happens though when a woman needs affection in order to fulfill that desire in a man. Do you see the problem? So when a man does not give the woman the affection that she needs, then she in turn does not reciprocate with the sexual fulfillment that he needs, and everybody ends up miserable. So how do you fix that, Pastor? Let's talk about some more needs, all right? Number three is intimate conversation. This is also important, mostly to women, also to men, but mostly to women. Intimate conversation is talking about feelings. Most men who are watching this just started having hives. And topics of personal interest, opinions, and plans. We want to know about your future. The thing we've noticed is that when couples are dating, they talk about futures a lot. They talk about plans and how many kids they're gonna have and where they're gonna live and blah blah blah. And then after they're married, only the girl wants to talk about, let's talk about our future. Let's talk about our feelings. Let's talk about our emotions. Men think those are cuss words. A lot of men, not all men, but many men. She just wants to talk about feelings all day, and I get. So this is why it is not wrong. It's just different, and it ranks higher for women most of the time than it does for men. And number four, recreational companionship. Now, this ranks higher for men than it does for women. Let me give you a very common scenario, very, very common. Before you're married, guy loves cars, girl does not love cars. Girl pretends to love cars so that guy will think he has found the best girl ever. Girl goes to all the car meets, helps him swap out the engine, helps him paint the cars. He is like, yes, not only have I found the woman of my dreams, she also shares my interest. She also makes me look even better than I looked before. Fast forward a couple years, he's proposed, she said yes, and here he is still loving cars. For the first year or so, first few months or so, she's actively involved. Then she says, babe, I'm gonna hang with the girls today, I'm not gonna go with you. He's like, okay, babe, and he goes. And then next time she's like, babe, eventually she says, I don't wanna do that anymore. I'm gonna go to the spa. Honey, would you like to go to the opera with me? And he thinks his girl is gone. What happened to her? She disappeared. What happened? Did she change? No. No. When people are dating, they always express the part of themselves that is most attractive to the person they're trying to attract. They're not trying to be deceptive. They're not trying to be, you're not trying to fool them into liking you. It's not that. It's the way that God made us to court. It's the way He made us to fall in love. It's the way He made you and I to feel like we have found soulmates. You understand? So a girl will do things that she don't even like to do and think maybe I like it, when what she really likes is his company. A guy will go to the opera, die through the whole thing, but he's staring at the girl, so it's okay. He'll watch chick flicks. He'll go to Broadway, do whatever she wants to do. But you couldn't put a gun to his head to get him to do any of those things after they're married. So do you see what has happened? Whatever was going on before is not going on anymore. So one spouse feels like the other one has completely changed. They flipped the switch. There's somebody else. Where's the guy I fell in love with? You find yourself asking. Same guy, different shoes. Same guy, different desires. He doesn't have to try to get you anymore. You don't have to try to get him anymore. You already have him. Do you see how the problems happen? Do you see sometimes when we're blaming each other for not being the same, we're the same. We just took off that courtship hat, right? This is why I think dating is so important if you do it in a Christ-centered way. If you have somebody in the beginning to tell you, look, let us figure out the things we actually like without each other, and let us see where the two lines meet. In fact, we have for you right now a free PDF download, listen, with 125 recreational activities, things that you probably didn't even think about for you and your boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, whatever, marriage, spouse, whatever, to check off. And where the lines intersect, you'd be surprised how many things you probably didn't think about that you can do together enjoyably that you both love. You both love movies? Then that's what you'll do. You both love going out to eat? Then that's what you'll do before and after. Honesty and openness. It ranks usually at the same level for both men and women. Honesty and openness is truthful and frank expression of positive and negative feelings. Events of the past, daily events and schedule, plans for the future, and not leaving a false impression. That's a definition. Spouses need it. They don't want that. You need it. If you're happy, I want to know. If you're miserable, I also want to know. When dishonesty pops up, when you find out you were told something that wasn't true, or it is mind-blowingly mind-shattering. Or when you suspect there's dishonesty in a relationship, it can cause division and rifts that truthfulness, no matter how painful, is better. I know it's not easy. It's not easy bringing up your past, especially if mistakes are involved. It's the hardest thing in the world to come clean. It's the hardest thing in the world to say, look, this is where I am sitting right now. This is, the truth about it. You see this thing here called your cell phone? This is probably the greatest weapon that was ever invented to destroy marriages. It wasn't invented for that purpose, but it sure has been used to do that. And so a really great rule of thumb is that every spouse should know the code to their spouse's phone. All the time, anytime, at 4 in the morning or at 3 in the afternoon. Should have the liberty to go through and open any app and find anything, and just for it to be that available. And I know some of you are right now like sweating bullets and you're like, oh gosh, it should never be like that. And even if it was like that, maybe this podcast is just to encourage somebody to fix it so it's not like that. There should never be a time when we have to wake up at 3 in the morning and check it out. And transparency from the beginning, even if there's something that is not too transparent, something in your past that's shameful. We all have skeletons. We all have things we don't want everybody to know. But marriages that are built on truth, even if there are really ugly secrets, eventually you can recover from that. Eventually you can get over those things, and eventually we can work together to make sure that the devil can't use it. But it is a need in marriage. It's not just one of the wants. These are all things. Don't you wish somebody told you before? You said, I do. Don't you wish there was somebody to sit you down and say, okay, let's walk through this together. Let us go through each of these evaluations and make sure we understand the need for these kinds of things. And that if there's something that you need to say it now, disclose it now, so that you don't go into a forever with all kinds of misconceptions. Well, that's how I feel. I don't know if you feel the same way. Physical attractiveness, is that important? No, Pastor Sharo, we can't judge a book by its cover. Honey, I judge books by covers all the time. And by that, I don't mean I am I'm going to physically judge you and say you're a certain way by the way you look. I literally will pick up a book because it has a good cover. But when you get married to somebody, how they look was the point in the beginning. It's probably why you were attracted to somebody. Not always, but often. Even if it wasn't, if there is no attraction there, you're going to find it very, very difficult to be physically attracted at a later point, right? One of the things that will continue to keep not the fire burning in your marriage, but will continue to make your needs feel met is if your spouse does what he has to do and you do what you have to do to make sure that he or she has no reason to stop being attracted to you. There's something to be said about a husband who cares how his wife feels about the way he looks, I think. If she likes my hair like this, I'm gonna cut my hair like this. If my husband likes a dress, I'm gonna wear it over and over and over. Tight, loose, I don't care. I'm wearing it. Number 7 is financial support. This is more important to women than it is to men, but increasingly in the last decade, 2 decades, it's also become important to men. Women need to know that you're not a bum. Women need to know that the groom that they're marrying, that the man that that's taking them home can take care of them. I know for you feminists out there, you're like, oh, I'm my own man. Well, that's your business, girl. I want to know that you can take care of me. And that's not because I'm not going to take care of myself, but that's because that's a man's gift from God. It's also a woman's gift from God, but as the head of your household, as the priest of your house, there's a solemn responsibility upon man to take care of his family. And the Bible says if you don't work, you won't eat. And laziness, only blah, 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 blah. So a woman needs to know that financial support is there. More often than not now, men also want a wife who is earning a living, that she is the second income earner, or that it is more important to some men than it is to others. I know men in my family, for instance, they want their wives to be comfortable, whether she wants to work or not work. It's her choice, and equally so. My brothers are like that. My husband likes that I know how to earn my own living and that I can support and lend support to our family. So that financial support is a big deal. It is not okay for most spouses that the other spouse sits at home all the time doing nothing, right? So it's a need. It's not just you. It's not just them. It's human nature. Okay, so financial support is the provision of financial resources to the house to feed and clothe your family and to help maintain a standard of living that is acceptable to your family, right? So if your spouse is asking you to contribute reasonably, then it doesn't mean that they're mean. It's just a need that some people have, and to other people it's more prioritized than some. Okay, two more, last one. Second to last, 8. Domestic support. It's the management of household chores. Let's just sit here for a minute. Just kidding. We ain't sitting here at all. I don't know what kind of household you have, but I know there are some girls. If you're a guy and you vacuum the house and you come home, you're getting some. You're gonna be a happy man because it is important to them. I mean, if you cook a meal, just call off the dogs, close the doors, and turn the lights off. Good things are about to happen because this domestic support is so important to them that if their husband adds to the household or takes the trash out and paints the house and builds this and builds that is what they need. Many women are like that. I personally, I'm not like that. I know a lot of people that are not like that. So whether you help around the house or not, you can if you want to. You don't have to if you don't want to, or whether you build things or don't build things, it's not that big a deal. We don't, we can hire somebody and be just as happy with you because you paid the money to hire the person. You get what I'm saying? But to some people, that is a need. But domestic support is important. And there's another list on the website here that we'll probably be able to link for you. I'll try my best to do that. But it's a list of domestic chores that we can split up. You pick your favorites, I pick my favorites, and then the ones we both hate, we can pick one at a time. Because I'm telling you, take my word for it, it will be well with your house if we know who does what. Right? So you don't have to complain that he didn't take out the garbage again. And he doesn't have to complain that you didn't clean the refrigerator again. Or that the house looks like a pigsty. Or whatever. You know the fights you have. So I don't know. Maybe it's just us. We don't fight about domestic support again. Because after 25 years, you kind of get to know each other enough to know what matters and what doesn't. And whether you like a lived-in house or whether you like a museum house, different people, different strokes for different folks. We will never cover our couches in plastic. We just won't do it. But if you do, to each his own. 9, family commitment. The provision of the moral and educational development of your children within a family unit. To some people, that is a need. We need to know that on a Saturday, you're not going out with your boys, you're going to play with our kids. We need to know that on a Monday afternoon, that our kids are your priority, not you and your girls have high tea. That is important in some families. It is a high priority. If that's a high priority to your spouse, then knowing that helps you fulfill their needs. Knowing that helps you make sure that they feel loved and appreciated and understood, right? And number 10, admiration. Very, very high in most men's needs. Admiration. And all that is being shown respect, value, and appreciation. Men have I believe most men, many men have an innate desire to be respected, to be honored, to be valued, and to be appreciated. And when a man feels dishonored, disrespected, non-valued, and underappreciated, then what you will essentially do is to cut off all the communication in your house. You will isolate him, you will emasculate him, and you will, when you need affection and he needs admiration and neither of you are getting it, you're going to find yourself two very lonely people, two people who do not understand each other at all, right? And you would be tempted to say, well, I will respect him when he respects me, but that's a kind of garbage that people who don't understand that we're different people with different needs will always say. Instead of trying to realize, if two people can realize, she needs different things, I need different things, he needs different things, I need different things. And so if we could figure out what each other's need is, if we can discover them and find the places where they intersect, or at least try to meet them, then we can mend broken things. We can fix rifts. We can get back to the place where we can communicate better, where we can love each other properly, where you can live your whole life being happy to be married. So I want to include those two PDFs for you. I know one is an emotional needs and healthy enjoyment inventory. That's the 125 different things that you can do together and figure out what it is you actually like to do. Because I hear a lot of couples tell me, we like nothing in common. He likes one thing, I like one. We like nothing, and that's impossible. So we're going to give you a list, and maybe you can go through the list and you can find something in common. And what a great place to start. So I'm going to give that to you. You can also go to marriagebuilders.com. You could go to 5lovelanguages.com. There are assessments. There are PDFs that you can download. Girls, it's been long, and I'm sorry that it's been long, but it was such a great and important topic that I think it's going to probably help some of us. If there's anything in the future that you'd like to discuss concerning marriage, I mean, we can do 10 tips and we can do all of those things, and those things can be quick and fun and easy and even funny, but it won't fix anything. It won't fix anything if at the root of all this we don't realize that people who are not committed to Christ probably can't make it. We're probably not going to make it. Because love, as the world knows it, is not enough to take you through eternity. It's going to take more than love, as the world knows it. It's going to take the agape, overwhelming, never-ending, reckless, selfless love of God. And that's what I wish for you and your marriage, whether it be now or in the future. And don't you ever forget, if God called you, even to marriage, then no one can uncall you, because you don't need a pulpit. You just need a message. Leave your comments. If you're not yet subscribed and you like this podcast today, you like this YouTube video, then do subscribe. Click the notification bell so that you never miss one of these amazing, non-boring, and wonderful videos. Next week, eyeshadow tutorial coming your way. I love you guys so much. God bless you. Have a good one.